Maybe we can start just talking about, everything that's been happening at the moment. I know sort of between the anxiety of the election in the US and, the tragedy and impact of the COVID pandemic, it's been a really tough year, particularly in the US. And I'm wondering what you've been doing to kind of keep yourself balanced or, maintain your own creativity and headspace.
That is, you use the perfect word, balance. Like, what can we do to balance this? What people are going through right now, and watching kind of what's happening to the world, and there's a lot of unfortunate circumstances that people are being placed in, and trying to see what we can do to not just take the care of people that are around us, but also do things that hopefully would just help people out in the slightest bit. But for me and like my friends and family, it's really about making sure that we're connecting. I think this what's happening now, stuff that's happening physically, and stuff that might be out of our control, but the things we can control is, obviously keep everyone safe, wear a mask and stay in as much as possible. But outside of that, what that does is it forces us to have to find creative ways or make more of an effort to connect with people, because at the end of the day, all we have is really each other, right? And with my family, I have a almost 2-year-old daughter, a little under 2 years old, and that's been a main focus of just making sure that she can feel like she's socializing with people, but not really at the same time. Like what we're doing right now is the safest way. So a lot of it is to kind of also have our anxiety go down a little bit. Is it's just trying to find places where you can find hope. And that's been, I think, for me, the saving grace in a lot of ways, is to finding hope for what the future holds, and to stay creative, to channel that energy, that anxiety, and to try and do that, and hopefully it does some good as well.
Yeah. And tell me, what has fatherhood been like for you these past nearly 2 years?
It's good. It's nerve-wracking and challenging, and sometimes absolutely scary, because you have this human that you have to try and take care of, and hopefully you can keep it safe from not falling down the stairs or something, and just as what a lot of people are going through is just staying safe during this time. But there's this the silver lining is that there's just so much bonding that's happening between our family, and getting to know each other a lot better. In regular life before 2020, it was, there's go, do this, do that. And I don't know if I would have had that opportunity. And you find ways to still work, and to try and make sure that, when you have your family, you're giving your undivided attention. So that has been really nice to focus and get better at, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect age really to be forced to spend so much time together, as a family unit.
Yeah, and also to make sure you don't spend all the time together. I think that's another thing. Making sure you have your corners and your spaces where you get to have your own time, which I think is just as important, especially during this time.
Yeah, you definitely need to make time to be yourself and have a bit of space. Now, I read that you grew up speaking Spanish, having been born in Costa Rica before your family moved to the US. So English was a second language for you. And of course, you have Chinese parents. I'm curious to know what growing up with that mix of different influences and cultures was like.
Yeah, I think the first English word I learned was confusion, or confusing, because it was so confusing at home. I think the first language was Spanish, and then it was Chinese, because at home my parents just made sure that I spoke Chinese, Cantonese specifically, and English I learned just English songs at school, at kindergarten, when I was in Costa Rica. But so there was a lot of mix matching and not knowing which language was which, especially at a young age, to switch over. And, when I moved to the States, Spanish became kind of something that I just didn't speak as much. The rest of my family was ingrained in them because I came here at a young age, and I had to learn Chinese. I had to go to Chinese school along with American school. And I did so bad. I used to get terrible grades just because I was confused. I didn't know what the teachers were saying. I didn't know what these other students were saying to me. And, recess was constant, just like quiet. Like I was super shy. So I don't think I was a shy kid when I was in Costa Rica, but I think not being able to communicate forced me to be shy in America for a long time. Just because I wasn't fully comfortable with myself. I wasn't really knowing where my place was to say something. And if I was going to say something wrong, and it's funny enough, it's my dad, I learned recently that he had that same issue, and he was in his 30s when he moved up here, and he would go as far as not kind of starving himself, because if he was in the airport, he wouldn't order any food because he didn't, not that he didn't know how to order food, he was just afraid of saying the wrong thing and possibly being laughed at, and it just kind of made me sad. But like I'm glad I went through that at a young age, to the point where I can at least communicate in one language.
Yeah. And obviously, if you're writing a movie or a book, I mean, I think this is where dance would come into it, kind of delving into this universal language. I mean, is that the actual case, really?
I like that. Look at that segue. The universal language is very, very good. Yeah, you know what? I think that, now to think of it, people always ask me, it's like, why did you come in? Why was dance something that really spoke to you? And I never thought of it that way. And now thinking about it, it is a universal language. It is something where you don't have to communicate with words, and you might, and saying the wrong thing through dance is kind of always the right thing, because you're just expressing yourself, or doing something that is in a performance element, or on a performance stage. And I went into drama class because I went to like a drama, not a drama school, but they had elective as a drama. And there's this little town in Pismo Beach where I grew up and went to middle school and high school. They had this really good drama program, and it was just it just looked like a good time. It wasn't even about, like, for me, it wasn't even about the art, because I didn't know anything about that. It was just like, where can I fit in and have a good time that I don't have to open a book and read? It was more just opening playbooks and plays, and that was fun because there's an action that you can take right away. You can actually go on stage and have it come alive. And we did this thing called I think it was called DuckTales and Bobby Socks. It was a show that we did. And I remember we had to learn how to swing dance, and that was actually my first true introduction. It was this West Coast swing style, and we got to learn. They brought a choreographer in, and somehow it just clicked, and it was just fun. And then I auditioned for the high school dance team, and then it became like we just mimicked music videos, like Missy Elliott, Cisco, Usher, and we just became good mimickers. And then moved to LA, and then we thought we were like great dancers, and we realized that a group of friends of mine, we were not. We were terrible dancers, so we had to get good in the landscape of LA and amongst the professionals. So long answer. That's kind of how I rolled into dance. You're absolutely right with that universal language. It felt like something that was really comfortable speaking without having to learn the words, or it came naturally to me, which I think everyone has that ability if they really tap into it.
Yeah. And at what stage in your life did you think that this is something you wanted to do professionally?
When I had nothing else to fall back on.
Right.
I went to San Francisco State University for about 3 months. In high school, you always get this question, it's like, what are you going to do in your life? What are you going to do with your career? I had absolutely no idea. I did not know what I was going to do. My dad was like, do something in business. I was like, oh, international business. And then I remember looking at all the classes I had to take. I was like, I don't know what I
Right.
need to do that. And my dad, he owned a, hardware store. We owned a restaurant. And he was just, I learned a lot as far as work ethic goes. So I was lucky to have that to carry over to whatever I was going to do, willing to do. But it was not to the point where I kind of started going to school and I was like, do I want to go down this path where I don't know what I want to do and keep going and just keep going, not knowing what I want to do, or explore this thing that I actually really liked doing, was dance. I was part of this team that Nike used to sponsor. It was called Culture Shock. It was in San Francisco, and just wonderful group of people. We would rehearse till 1 a.m. in the morning. So that's when you really know you love something, when you would stay up all night to do. And I met this guy. He was a dancer choreographer, and he just kind of said like, oh yeah, I make money doing this. And I was like, wait, what? You make money dancing? And I moved to LA, and we got headshots, just terrible headshots that should not have worked at all. But started taking a lot of dance classes. And this one particular dance class, I got kind of, I would say, discovered by these choreographers that to dance for this, pop star, teenage pop star, Casey. And then I was off to Europe getting paid $700 a week to dance behind this pop star. And, from then it just, it was my first paycheck and for dancing. And it really opened my world up that this is something that I could do and possibly make a career out of.
Yeah. And then since then, your career has just continued to grow. And what's interesting, you've sort of been part of these different franchises like Glee and Shadowhunters that have really passionate and vocal fan bases. And I'm wondering what your way is of kind of managing the demands or the expectations of those fan bases, when you're a real person with a life beyond that character.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what it actually is, but one thing I do know is that I care. I care about these characters, and I care as a whole of the, I think, importance of, whatever message that you're trying to put out. But those particular franchises, I think they were very meaningful to a lot of people because I think they never saw part of themselves being reflected on the screen. And I think, a lot of people talk about representation, diversity, and being like, well, I get to see myself. And it's like, sometimes it's not really just even about the face, it's about these important things that you go through, and knowing that someone else is going through it as well, or giving you a little guidance on how you can go about something. And I think those characters, when you talk about like Glee or Shadowhunters, specifically we talk about like Mike Chang, and he's just a quiet, shy guy that a lot of times he was looked at, when you look at how it was written, is that it was just an Asian kid, and it'd be a butt of the joke sometimes, and or a lot of the times, but being able to, for the challenge for me was to try and figure out how I can make sure to change the way that dancers looked at, or Asian male is looked at, or Asian teenager at that time. And also how accepting it was of the LGBTQ community, especially with the characters that are involved in choir, like also like how nerdy and dorky that the stereotype was for choir team and Glee Club, and to kind of flip it and hopefully give a little bit of like cool factor to a group of people that usually wouldn't have that stamp of approval. And then with Shadowhunters, in a lot of similar ways, it's just how can I bring something different that's doesn't fall into the stereotype, and also gives gives as much as I can within my power as an actor, because sometimes you feel really powerless in a lot of ways because there's so many people involved trying to make something really, really good, that, you know, I can hopefully do my part and read in between the lines and do something that can hopefully resonate with audiences. And, you know, I've been very fortunate that it has.
Yeah. And how do you select your roles? I mean, is there something you look for in the character or the production or the script that makes it really appealing to you?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. When you know, an earlier part of my career, there were very limited roles I could play. You know, you kind of had to do your best with what was handed to you, or what the opportunities that you uh, that was in front of the table, and you said like, okay, I'm gonna try and make the best out of this. And you know, I think that's why it's so important right now when you talk about like why representation is so important, why being able to have open up opportunities to actors, and specifically not just younger actors, but also actors who have been doing this for a long time and who have the goods, who are capable, and to have the skill set to be able to do that, but just never had the opportunity to. For me, it's just making sure that you know, the character is interesting, story is interesting, and it's something that I can bring myself into. And I think most importantly, is a character that I can learn from. I think all the characters that I played, I learned a lot from these characters about myself, about the world, about how their perspective is completely different than mine, and how some way I can meet in the middle with their thought process as just me, Harry. But going into it, and the characters, like, how can I fall into it completely and make it as believable as possible? And you know, and also I think it saves me a lot of money in a lot of ways, because I don't have to go to therapy, because I feel like a lot of acting is just straight up therapy, and you're walking through these things that you're working through yourself, and also seeing the complete opposite side of like why things are necessary, that even though you don't agree with, why it's necessary to exist in this world.
Hmm. Now, your latest project, All My Life, is up next month. A film that follows the journey of an engaged couple who make the decision to bring forward their wedding plans after receiving the news that your character is diagnosed with terminal cancer. And it's an incredibly painful and romantic story. What was your take on it when it first came your way?
You know, I think it was heartbreaking to when I first read the script. It broke my heart. It made me laugh, and it broke my heart again. And then, you know, there was a sense of hope that came out of it, and within, you know, all the things that happened uh, in the film. And but when you realize that it was inspired by a real love story, and we were so fortunate to be able to work with Jen Carter, who is a real who is based off of, along with Solomon Chow. And you know, there's a sense of heaviness, but also a lot of weight on your shoulders to play a couple that was so inspiring, and also there's so many intimate details that are about the relationship. So what drew me to it is the fact that this is not I've never read anything like this. You know, you hear about like romantic films or romantic tragedies, and all are just beautifully told, but this one in particular was different because there was this like really strong sense of hope. And I think that it was really, really beautiful reading at a time, you know, we weren't going through what we were going through in our world today, but I think now more than ever it's I think it'll resonate with a lot of people. It resonated with me, you know, and when you think about loss and how you go about it. But it's just this journey that this couple goes through, along with their support system of their friends, that really makes it really beautiful, and brings it full circle in a lot of ways. I feel that, you know, we can be proud of, and hopefully Jen is, and we can at least make her proud with the story that we were handed.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got a slate of films sort of currently filming or in post-production. Has the pandemic kind of halted any of those productions, or were most of your upcoming projects kind of locked away before all of this really took off earlier this year?
Yeah, I'm speaking for myself. 2020 2019 was extremely busy and things were just rolling and going. And having a kid was always like in the back of my mind of like, how am I gonna keep this going? And we made a lot of things work in 2019, but 2020 again, you look at the silver lining, try and look at the silver lining of things. A lot of people, not just me, are the work was halted, and then it stopped, and they had to figure out what they're going to do. As an actor, and I speak just for myself because I think every actor is going through different things too. Is that I got to use this time to really focus on family and to focus on projects also that I've always wanted to develop. I use that time to really expand on those things that I wanted to work on. Like some people wanted to learn how to play guitar. I tried to do that and I was like, that ain't working. So let me try and develop these projects with people that I've been trying to do. And that's been really, really nice to kind of fall into it. And my thing is just adaptability. It's like, what can you do to adapt to the situation that's in front of you? And I really made sure to try and do that with my friends and family, but specifically with work. It's just like, okay, moving forward, if this is going to look this way for the next couple of months, what can I do to not have a standstill and just keep moving forward without forcing things?
Yeah, and in the future, I mean, is there a single role or type of project that you would really love to work on or have in mind as some kind of ambition or goal?
I wish I had something like clever and funny and witty to say about these roles, because I think, let's just say when I was like, I think 18, my ambition was to be in a music video, dance music video. That was just like my goal. And then when you get that, you're like, cool. I don't know what I want to do next.
Yeah.
And and then all these amazing things kind of come about. I think for me, it's really about just I feel like I've had so many interesting experiences in my life, and not just that, but the people that I have encountered in my life. That my hope is to continue this trend of just being able to play whole human beings. And it sounds like why is he saying that? It's just because I've never had the opportunity to really play whole human beings, in the sense that when you talk about Hollywood in general, you usually are handed a caricature or a stereotype, and then you have to make the best out of it. So I'm just excited and celebrating to be able to play these characters that feel real and don't feel like I have to make an excuse. That's already written on paper, and I can continue to do that. So that is my hope and dreams for the next couple of projects. And it might change again, and it might go back to just hoping to be in the music video.
I would love to see it. Harry, thank you so much for chatting with us. It's been a pleasure, and best of luck for the release of All My Life. It looks really fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mitchell. And yeah, I hope everyone goes out and sees it.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Take care.